Guys, let's start with perquisites now. Okay, pay attention. Perquisites. Meaning of perquisites? Very simple. Any additional personal benefits the employer will give. Employer will give some personal benefits in addition to salary. So that personal benefit of personal nature will be treated as what? Perquisite. So perquisites mean additional personal benefit. May be given regularly, not be given regularly. Okay, but that is a perquisite. And if you know that we have done a definition of salary, the definition of salary, perquisites are also treated as your salary. Hence, they will be charged under the head salary. Now, which perquisites will be charged under the head salary? They are defined in section 17, subsection. So, first, the definition of perquisite is given in 17.2. 17.2. Clause 1 to clause 8. Clause 1 to clause. Understanding? Okay. Now, these perquisites will be treated as your salary and will be charged under the head salary. Now, which are those perquisites? You can see. Okay. 1, 2. No, this we count as 1 only. Okay, no? 1. Then in clause number 3, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 plus 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, 11, 11. In clause number 8, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 11 and 9, 20. Plus 2 additional. Total 22 perquisites are there. You have to do. Very huge this thing. But see, all the perquisites are very easy if you pay some attention. Simple thing I'm telling you, any personal benefit, any given by the, to the, in addition to, may be given regularly, may not be given on regular basis, right? Now these personal benefits can be monetary also, can be non-monetary. Now if the personal benefits are monetary, valuation is not required. Valuation is, you'll know the value immediately. But if the personal benefits are non-monetary, if the personal benefits are, then you will have to do the valuation also. Now for example, I'll tell you, if your house electricity bill, you are my employee, your house electricity bill, your personal expense, isn't it? But I am paying that. Isn't it a personal benefit for you? It is a purpose. It is a house electricity bill was 3,000 rupees. I paid that 3,000 for you. For you pay, I will reimburse. Is it a personal benefit? How much? Value? No. This is a monetary purpose. Yes or no? Second example. I give you a house to stay. You are my employee. I'm giving you a house to stay. Stay in my house. Employer is providing accommodation to you. Employer is providing a house to you. Isn't it a personal benefit for you? What should be the value? Don't know. Now you'll have to determine the value. And that value will be charged for the head salary. For example, I'm giving you motor car. Use my motor car. Isn't it a personal benefit for you? Personal benefit or not a personal benefit? Personal benefit? How much? Don't know. You'll have to determine the value. So the perquisites which require valuation, the perquisites which require valuation are known as non-monetary perquisites. The perquisites which will not require any valuation, value immediately you will come to know. The value of that personal benefit immediately you will come to know are known as monetary benefits. Now there is a very small difference between the perquisites and allowances. Sometimes students get confused. Now if I say that I'm giving you 3,000 rupees per month to have lunch. Is it a personal benefit? No, it is an allowance. I'm giving you 3,000 rupees. I'm giving you a fixed amount on a regular basis in addition to salary. That is allowance. But don't worry, every day afternoon I will provide you lunch. That is a personal benefit. That is a perquisite. Hello? To pay the rent of your house, I'm giving you monthly 20,000. This is house rent allowance. If I give you a house, it is a perquisite. To pay for your servants, I give you 5,000 rupees per month. But if I'm providing you servants, understanding the difference, if there is a personal benefit, then it is a perquisite. But if a fixed amount is given on a regular basis for any personal purpose, then it will be an allowance. To meet the medical expenses of you and your family, I'm giving you 3,000 rupees per month. This is a medical allowance. But don't worry, any treatment of you or your family member will be done in any hospital, no? I will pay the medical expense. This is a perquisite. So there is a very fine line of difference between perquisites and allowances. If you'll miss that, what will happen, you know? Sometimes you are thinking that it is a perquisite. And this type of perquisite, sir had said that this is exempt. So you will take the exemption. But bloody, that was not a perquisite, that was allowance. Fully taxable. So if you'll not be able to identify, what will happen? You'll do the wrong tax treatment. The best example, if I'll give you, there are few more examples, but the best example which I'll give you, see, office to residence, residence to, for this fixed traveling, I'm giving you 3,000 rupees per month, 4,000 rupees per month. This is an allowance. For this fixed traveling, I'm giving you a fixed amount of money on a regular basis. That is a that is a transport or commutation allowance. If you are a handicap employee, 3,200 exempt and the excess is taxable. But if you are a normal employee, then it is fully, this is the treatment when you give, when it is allowance. But now see how the language will be in the exam. To travel between office and residence, the employer has provided car. And for that, monthly value is 3,000. No, even if the monthly value is given, don't get confused. To travel between your residence and office, employer is not giving you any money. He's giving you car. He's giving you conveyance facility, transport facility. And the monthly value of that, they have calculated and given it to you. That monthly value is not an amount which you get on a regular basis. That is not allowance. And if you get such type of perquisite fully, you'll come to know. Motor car facility, I'll teach. So if office to residence, residence to office, conveyance facility is given, then motor car facility is given, then the perquisite, fully exempt. But to do this fixed traveling, if an amount is given on a monthly basis in addition to salary, then it will be allowance. Understanding? See, at your home, gas, water, electricity, you consume. You consume water, you consume electricity, you consume gas. Understanding? The bills are coming on your name. Those bills I will pay or I will reimburse. What is this? Perquisite. The bills I am paying, the bills I am reimbursing is a personal benefit given by me. But to pay those bills, if I am giving you a fixed amount on a monthly basis, then it is allowance. Understanding the very fine line of difference between perquisite and allowance. Simple. Sir, employee is getting fixed amount. Fix on a regular basis to meet certain expenses. Then it is confirm an allowance. But if you see any personal benefit is happening, then even if monthly values are given, it will not be allowance, it will be perquisite. Understanding? Your examiner can put you in trouble like anything in these points, I'm telling you. So be very careful. So, if the employer gives perquisites, what is the meaning of perquisite? Additional personal benefits to the employee as defined under section 17(2), clause 1 to clause 8. Those personal benefits may be given regularly or may not be given on a regular basis, are treated as salary in the hands of employee and will be charged under the head salary. May be given in cash, may be given in kind, may be monetary, may be non-monetary. Sir, how do I know that the perquisites are monetary? These words will be used. Employer paid your personal expenses. Your personal expenses you pay. Employer will reimburse. If these words are used, understand valuation is not required. Valuation is, will immediately come to know the amount paid by the employer or reimbursed by the employer is your benefit. Understanding? But if the employer gives you something free, if he gives some facility, if he provides something, yes or no, employer is providing this, employer is giving you this facility, employer is giving this thing for free, then in that case you say that these type of personal benefits are non-monetary benefits. Here you will have to do the valuation. You will have to learn that how to determine the value of these perquisites. So first you will learn how to determine the value, and that value which you will determine will now be treated as your salary, will be taxable under the salary head. Understanding? Sure? Now pay attention. This is a very important note. If you'll ask anyone, perquisites are taxable under which head? Wrong. They're not always taxable under the salary head. They can sometimes be taxable under PGBP also. Sometimes they can be treated as your gift, taxable under the head IFOS also. What is perquisite? Personal benefit, no? So is it always necessary that the employer will give personal benefit to the employee only? Sometimes in the course of my business, in the course of my profession also, I can get personal benefits from my customers, from my clients. So even they are my perquisites, but they cannot be taxed under the head salary. Why? Because the personal benefits are not given by the employer to the employer. I've told you very clearly that if you want to come in this head, employer-employee relationship has to be there. And if in the course of my employment, I'm getting these personal benefit from my employer, only then those personal benefits will come under the head salary. But what if in the course of my business or profession, I'm getting some personal benefit? Will I consider these as a perquisite under salary head? No. This will be my PGBP income. If in any other case, if I'm getting some personal benefits, then it will be treated as my gift, taxable under the head IFOS. So note, if such personal benefits are received in the course of business or profession or otherwise, then it will be treated as PGBP or IFOS. It cannot be taxed under the head salary. To be taxed under the head salary, these personal benefits should flow from your employer. Only then they are going to come under the head salary. Understanding? Now, whatever personal benefits we are going to talk, we are going to talk from the point of view of employee. Employee receiving these personal benefits. So which personal benefits the employee will receive and will be taxable as salary is given in section 17(2). Now one by one. Clause number 1. Rent free. Employer is giving you accommodation, and for that he is not charging any rent. Isn't it a personal benefit? To determine the value. Determine the Clause 1 says that the value of this benefit will be treated as your perquisite, taxable under the head salary. So first you will have to determine the value, and that value will be taxable under the head salary. Employer can give you accommodation at concessional rent also. Not necessary he will give you rent free, but he can give accommodation at concessional rent also. So the value of that accommodation at concessional rent, the value of benefit because of that accommodation which is given at concessional, that value will also be treated as your salary and will be taxable under this. But sir, that value how to determine? That value determination is given in rule 3. Now we'll have to go to rule 3, and in rule 3 there is sub rule 1. As per rule 3, sub rule 1, we'll have to determine this value, and that value we'll have to charge for the head salary. The first perquisite we are going to do accommodation. Then we'll come to clause number 3. Clause number 1 and 2 will talk about accommodation, either rent free or concessional rent. Yes or no? Clause 1, clause 2 of 17.2. Which is the section, sir? 17.2, clause 1, clause 2 will talk about accommodation. Clause 1 will talk about rent free accommodation. Clause 2 it talks about accommodation at concessional rates. The value of both the accommodation you have to determine as per rule 3.1. That valuation will learn, determine the value, and that value will be taxed. But only this is your perquisite. No, you get more benefit. Few benefits are prescribed in clause 3. Few benefits are prescribed in clause. Now, which are the benefits or amenities or facilities which are prescribed in clause 3? 5 benefits are prescribed. 5 benefits are prescribed in rule 3. Motor car facility. Second one is domestic servants, provisioning of domestic servant. Then provisioning of gas, water, electricity. Then provisioning of educational facility. Then free or concessional travel tickets. These are all the benefits which the employer will give. You will see the industry, no? Very beautiful, you know. Any different type of industry, different types of benefits the employer might give to the employee. Few industry, you will see, okay, in this industry, the employer, this is, for example, this is IT industry. In the IT industry, different types of benefits will be given. In the manufacturing, auto industry, the different types of benefits will be given. Yes or no? All the different types of benefits they have tried to cover in salary head. Now 5 benefits. Clause number 3 prescribes 5 benefits. Number 1, motor car can be given. Motor car facility relating to motor car can be given, or servants can also be provided, or gas, water or electricity can also be provided by the employer, or the employer can provide educational facility, or the employer can provide your concessional travel tickets also. Now these benefits, if the employee will receive, value of these prescribed benefits will also be taxable for you. So now you'll have to do the valuation of these benefits. Valuation as per rule 3. Whenever you will value any perquisite, the valuation is given in section 3. Valuation is given in rule 3. So always you'll have to go to rule 3. And in rule 3, if you will come to sub rule 2, you'll know how to determine the value of motor car facility. Sub rule 3, you'll know how to determine the value of domestic servants, provisioning of domestic servants. Sub rule 4, you'll know how to determine the value of provisioning of gas, water, electricity. Sub rule 5, you'll know educational facility. And every rule supposed to learn valuation. Oh, value I will calculate like this, and this value I will show taxable under salary head. Oh, value I will calculate like this. So this is the manner in which I will determine the value, and that value I will show taxable under the head salary. Rule 3, sub rule 1, accommodation. 2, motor car. 3, servants. 4, gas, water, electricity. 5, educational facility. 6, tickets. Free or concessional. Okay. Now, these benefits which are given in clause 3 are not taxable for all employees. They're taxable only if the employee is a specified employee. What type of employee? Are you a specified employee? Yes. Then you will determine the value as per rules. And that value you will have to show taxable. But this value you will determine and you will show taxable only if you are a specified employee. What if you are a non-specified employee? No need to do the valuation. These perquisites are not taxable for you. And this time, these perquisites have become very important. I'll tell you why. For your attempt, all these 5 perquisites are very important. You cannot leave them and go for exam this time. Okay. Now, 5 perquisites, these 5 benefits are taxable only for specified, not taxable for other than these 5. Clause 1, clause 2, then clause 4, 5, 6 and all. All those perquisites are taxable for all employees. There you don't see specified or non-specified. These perquisites will be taxable in the hands of all employees. Understanding? Hello? The accommodation value will be taxable for all employees, whether specified or not. Clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, 7, 7A and 8. In clause number 8, you can see many benefits. All these benefits will be taxable for all types of employees. So if you can see this table, perquisites which are given under section 17(2), clause 1 to clause 8, except clause 3 are taxable for all types of employees. But the perquisites which are given in clause number 3 are taxable only in the case of and not taxable in the hands of. So valuation of these perquisites not to be done. Value is not taxable. So valuation is not to be done in the hands of non-specified employee. Will you remember? Yes or no? Right now I'm giving you an outline what we are supposed to study. And one by one we are going to study each of these. Yes or no? Now coming to clause number 4, which says that any obligation or liability of the employee met by the, you have already done this in yesterday's lecture. You remember those 3 stories which I told with the professional tax. Third story, do you remember? Professional tax was bloody your obligation. You are an employee. You are in employment. You are doing any profession. So professional tax should be paid by you to the state government. It was your obligation. But who is paying? So your obligation met by employer. Taxable as salary. Why? Because of clause number 4. Not just that. That is just an example. That is just any obligation, any liability of the employee. But that liability, that obligation should be a personal obligation, personal liability of the employee. If that is met by the employer, that is paid or reimbursed by the employer, meaning met by the employer, that is also a personal benefit for you as per clause number 4. Fully taxable. No valuation is required. Why? You'll immediately come to know that how much benefit is happening. How much professional tax I paid? 2,000. How much benefit? 2,000. How much personal expense I reimbursed? 5,000. How much is the benefit? 5,000. Valuation will not be required here. You will directly come to know the value. Understanding or not? Then clause number 5 is there. Any sum payable by the employer for life insurance policy or annuity policy, like your premiums, life insurance premium and annuity policy premium, if the employer pays that, even that is treated as your benefit as per clause number 5. Then clause number 6, you will have to determine the of specified security or sweat equity shares allotted or transferred free of cost, or employer can give you securities, shares under ESOP. Employer can give you sweat equity shares. They're given free at concessional rate. Baba, that is also a perquisite. The value of that will be taxable. It is a personal benefit. We will treat this also as your personal benefit. And the value will be taxable as salary. How to determine that value? For that, again, rule 3, 3, 8 and D9. Understanding? Then there will be clause number 7 and clause number 7A. I'll not talk anything about this right now. Okay. We are going to talk about this with ASAF, approved superannuation fund, which we are going to do with provident fund concept. That time we are going to have a discussion about 7 and 7A. Okay. Now clause number value. Again, see the word used is wherever you see the word value, there valuation rule will apply. And if you don't see the word value, meaning valuation rules are not applicable, directly you will determine the value. Understanding? Now in clause number 8, they are saying that the value of notified fringe benefits. What is the meaning of fringe benefits? Non-monetary benefits. Non-monetary benefits means fringe benefits. So there are certain fringe benefits. There are certain non-monetary benefits which are notified for clause number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, these benefits. Interest free or concessional loan. Because of this, interest benefit will happen. Some traveling, touring and accommodation facilities given when the employee is on vacation. Then food, meals, etc. will be given. Gifts will be given, credit card facility, club facility, use of movable asset, transfer of movable asset, any other facility, amenity, benefit, service, privilege given by the employer other than these specified above. All these will be treated as your fringe benefit, non-monetary benefits. You'll have to determine the value as per rule 3(7), and that value will also be taxable. Now, additionally, we are going to do two more perquisites. One is medical facility and another one is leave travel assistance, LTA. So, we'll go serially. First clause, accommodation. Taxable for all. Taxable for. Okay. Now, clause number 3, taxable only for. So, that time when I will be teaching clause number 3, that time I will tell you the difference between specified and non-specified. Right now, I'm not going to discuss about that. Okay, no? The difference between, the meaning of specified employee given here, but I will not tell you right now. First, we'll start with the first perquisite. What is this perquisite? Accommodation. Okay, now pay attention. There are two clauses, no? Clause number 1 and clause number. Clause number 1 says 17 subsection 2. Clause 1 says that rent free. What did I say? Rent free accommodation can be given by the employer. Clause number 2 says accommodation at what rate? Concessional rate can also be given by the. So determine the value of this. Determine the value of this. This value which you are going to determine will be taxable under the head salary. Will be taxable under the head. Simple. So we are now supposed to learn the value. How the value will be determined. That value we will determine and we will charge under the head salary. So how do we determine this value? Determine this value, we'll have to follow rule. Rule 3, sub rule. Okay. So let's start with rule 3.1. Rule 3.1 says, let's see. First of all, accommodation is rent free. If the accommodation is, it can be unfurnished also, and it can be furnished also. Yes or no? And if the accommodation is at concessional rent, then also it can be unfurnished or furnished. Getting my point, everyone? So the accommodation, if given rent free, can be only accommodation or can be an accommodation with furniture. Accommodation given at concessional rent can be only accommodation or can be accommodation with furniture. How to determine the value? in each of these four cases. Getting my point? What I'm trying to tell you? Okay. See, now this we call RFUA, rent free unfurnished accommodation. We'll call it RFUA. Short name. What we will call this? Rent free furnished accommodation. If you want to determine the value of this now, first you'll have to determine the value of accommodation. And in that you will have to add the value of furniture. To determine the value of accommodation, determine the value of furniture, add both of them, you will get RFFA. So to determine RFFA, you'll have to first determine, without RFA you cannot calculate, that is the base. Sir, if you want to, this is UA at unfurnished accommodation at UA at here. You want to determine this value, no? You have to first determine if for unfurnished accommodation there is no rent, then this is the value. For that same unfurnished accommodation, if the rent is charged, then just reduce the rent. The balance will be the value of this accommodation. Because if no rent is charged, then this value is taxable. And out of that value, some rent is recovered, reduce that, you will get the value of this accommodation. But if you want to FA at PR, if you want to determine the value of this accommodation, then first you will have to determine the value of this. And to determine the value, you will require the value of, ultimately, you have to determine this value any case. If you learn this, all the three parts will become easy for you. In accommodation, add furniture, you will get RFFA. In accommodation, reduce the rent recovered, you will get unfurnished accommodation at concessional rent. First determine this, then add value, furniture value, then you will get this. And out of this, reduce the rent recovered, you will get this. Understanding? So, I will give you one shortcut. 3 lines, only 3 lines. One, will first determine the value of what? Accommodation. Will determine the value of, in that you will add the value of furniture. Yes or no? Then there will be a total value. There will be a, from this, reduce, recovery, rent recovered from the employee. Yes or no? The bracket, if any. If any. Then the balance amount will be TVOP. Full form. Taxable value of perquisite. So for example, employer is just giving you accommodation. Employer is giving only accommodation without any furniture, without any, and he is not charging any rent also. Tell me, will you calculate the accommodation of value? He is giving you accommodation. Will you calculate the value of accommodation? Furniture value will not come. He is not giving you furniture, no. The furniture value will not come. Total will be this only. This will be total. Yes or no? Is the employer recovering any rent from you? Some amount of rent? No. So this will also not come. Only determine the value of accommodation, that will be your taxable. Hello, sir. What if the employer is giving you accommodation with the furniture? Will you determine the value of accommodation? Will you determine the value of furniture? There will be a total value. Is he charging any rent? No. So this will not come. So this value will become the taxable value. Understanding? Wait. If the employer is giving you accommodation, only accommodation with no furniture, but charging rent also, will this value come? This will not come. This will come. Taxable value. Understanding? Wait. If the accommodation is giving you, sorry, if the employer is giving you accommodation with furniture and rent is also charged, will you value the accommodation? Will you value the furniture? Rent is also recovered. Whatever is there will be taxable. Understanding? Now learn the value of, what value of accommodation you will charge. Learn the value of furniture. This may be given in the question, may not be given in the, but you will have to first identify what type of accommodation is there in the question. The employer is giving what type of accommodation. He can give you only accommodation. Then find out the value of accommodation. That's it. If he is giving you only accommodation but charging the rent also, find out the value of accommodation, reduce the rent. Hello? Why? Because see, value of accommodation is your benefit. Value of accommodation is your benefit. This benefit he is giving, but out of that benefit, some benefit is taking away in the form of rent. No. So reduce that amount of rent. The net amount, the balance amount will be your benefit, taxable benefit. What if he is giving accommodation with furniture? You will determine the value of accommodation. You will determine the value of furniture. That value will be taxable. No rent is charged. But if for that accommodation is charging the rent also, then determine the value of accommodation, determine the value of furniture. That is the benefit. But out of that benefit, some benefit is taken away by him in the form of rent. That should not be taxable for you. Reduce. Understanding how to determine the value of accommodation. So first we learn how to determine the value of accommodation. Now see, if the accommodation is given to, accommodation given to whom? Government employee. So any accommodation which is given to the government employee, the taxable value, the value of that accommodation will be licensing fees. Licensing fees of that accommodation. Sir, what is this licensing? Rental value. They will not use the straight words. If they are going to use simple and straight words, everyone will understand tax. Lo, do you want everyone to understand tax? Just imagine if everyone will start understanding tax, your shop will be closed, no? The shop which you are going to open. What shop? PA practice. You'll have to put a lock and key. Nobody is coming, sir. Nobody is taking my services of tax, sir. Why? Everyone understands tax. Why? It is very easy. Everyone will understand. It will become very easy. Then why the bloody hell they are going to come to you? They should come to you because the things are very difficult for them. Or it should not be difficult for you. If it is difficult for you, then also lock and key practice you will not be able to do. Understanding? So it should not be easy for them. Otherwise, lock and key. Hello? And it should not be difficult for you. Then also lock and key. So make the things easy for you, no? What is the meaning of licensing fees? Licensing fees, rental value. Rental value of that accommodation which the employer is giving you, government is giving you. Now who will determine this rental value? Government, as per its own rules. So the licensing fees will be determined by whom? Determined by the government as per as per its own rules. So as per the rules of the government, government will determine the rental value. Government will determine the, and that rental value is nothing but the licensing fees. That will be treated as your benefit, and that benefit will be taxable as the value of this accommodation. Sir, why this value? Simple, no? If the government has determined this rental value, meaning the government is thinking that if we give this accommodation on rent, this much rent the government can earn. Or if anyone taking this accommodation on rent, he has to pay how much rent? This much amount. Which you are paying or you are not paying? You are not paying. You are saving this because this accommodation is given rent free to you. If this accommodation is given rent free to you, this rent which you would have paid if you would have taken this accommodation from the government, are you paying this rent or saving this rent? This is your benefit. Taxable. Common sense. Hello. Which is very uncommon. Understanding? If you'll ask anyone what is the logic for charging this licensing fee, logic no one will be knowing. Sir, licensing fee is taxable. But why the bloody hell it is taxable? Because this is the benefit happening to you. If you would have taken this accommodation on rent, how much rent the government would have charged from you? This much. Are you paying this much rent? This accommodation was given rent free. And because you got this accommodation rent free, you did not pay this much amount of rent which the government would have charged. So you are saving this rent, no? So the rent which you are saving will be your benefit. And that rent is nothing but licensing fees. Understanding? Hello? So, will you have to determine this value? You will have to calculate the licensing fees, no? They will tell you, first calculate licensing fees. Who will calculate this? As per its own, will always be given in the question. You'll have to just find out, where is the license? Licensing fees. Pick up this amount and show it taxable. That's it. Simple thing you cannot do. Just have to open your mind and find out what. But bloody licensing fees you will find out from the question. It will be given in the question only if you are a government employee. Only then this will be treated as the value of your accommodation. Taxable value of your accommodation. Yes or no? But what if the employee is a non-government employee? In the case of non-government employee, sir, I saw the entire question. I did not find any licensing fees. Why you did not find? Because the employee was not a government employee. Employee is a. Now licensing fees will not be given in the question. Now you will have to calculate this value. Calculate the benefit value. How will you calculate? Simple. You will have to ask that the accommodation given to non-government. Accommodation given to. Now the accommodation which was given to non-government employee can be owned by employer. My own accommodation can I give you? Or can be taken on rent. Why? Employer can give his own accommodation to you, or employer can take an accommodation on rent himself and he can give that accommodation to you. Possible or not possible? Employer's own accommodation, employer will give. Employer's own accommodation, employer will give. Then how much will be your benefit? How much will be your? Depends on the population of the city where the accommodation is given. And this population you will check as per 2011 census. As per the 2011 census, what was the population of that city where the employer has given his own accommodation to you? Now, if the population of the city, was greater than 40 lakhs, greater than, then your benefit will be 10% of salary. Calculate 10% of your salary. That is your benefit. That is the value of accommodation. That is the benefit by taking this accommodation. Yes or no? But sir, is it always necessary that the accommodation will be given in a city where the population is more than 40 lakhs? What if the population is less than equal to 40 lakhs, but it should be more than 15 lakhs? More than, then in that case, the value will be 7.5% of your salary. This is the value. This is the value of the accommodation which will be taxable for you. Sir, what if the population is less than equal to 15 lakhs? Then take 5% of salary. See, this is the benefit happening to you. This is the benefit happening. Why, you know? Because usually it is seen that the cities where the population is more than 40 lakhs, minimum 10% of your salary pay as rent. You are not paying, you are saving, because in that city the employer has provided his own accommodation. Has the employer provided own accommodation? Yes. In a city where the population is more than 40 lakhs. So if he would not have given that accommodation, you should have at least spent 10% of your salary to pay rent in that city, which you are not spending. You are saving that much amount of rent. So the rent which you could have paid if this accommodation was not given in that city, that should be your benefit. 10% of salary. The cities where the population is less than or equal to 40, but more than 15 lakhs. Usually in such cities, it is seen that minimum 7.5% of salary is spent as rent. You are not spending, you are saving. That rent which you should have paid, if this accommodation was not given to you in that city by the employer, you should have spent at least this much amount of rent in that city. You are not spending, you are saving. That should be your benefit. Done, sir. And in any other cities where the population is up to 15 lakhs, then you should have spent minimum 5% of salary as rent, which you are not spending. That is your benefit. So either 10% of salary or 7.5% of salary or 5% of salary, depending on the population of city as per 2011 census, if the accommodation is owned by the employer in that city, that owned accommodation is given to you. Understanding? Now tell me, whatever may be the city, irrespective of the population, hello, so the accommodation can be given in this city also, this city also, this city also, no? Whatever may be the, how much highest amount could have been taxed in your hands? 10% of your salary. How much highest amount could have been taxed? 10% of your salary. Either that amount or the actual rent paid by the employer for the accommodation which the employer has taken on rent and given it to you. So for the accommodation which is taken on rent by the employer, how much should be the benefit? The highest amount which we would have taxed, that is 10% of salary. Yes or no? Or the actual rent of that accommodation paid by the employer, whichever is lower, whichever is. So tell me here, what are you going to do? 10% of salary or actual rent paid by whom? Paid by the employer for that accommodation, whichever is. Out of these, the lowest amount will charge. So the rent which you could have paid in any city, yes or no? Or the rent which the employer is actually paying. Whichever is lower, that will be your benefit. That benefit we will charge. Understood, sir? So tell me, the value of accommodation which you are supposed to calculate, this one. Value of accommodation. Can I say, you can write licensing fees here? You can write licensing fees here. If yes, why not? There are 5 values. Any values you can write here. Depends that who is the employee, government employee or a non-government. If government employee, then what value you will write here? I say you can write licensing fees also. If you are not a government employee, then non-government employee, then what value you will write here? Depends that the accommodation was owned by the employer or taken on hire by the employer. If the accommodation was owned by the employer in a city where the population is more than 40 lakhs as per 2011 census, yes or no? You will calculate 10% of your salary. You will calculate 10% of your, and that value you are going to write here. Understanding? Now what if the city has a population of more than 15 lakhs but less than equal to 40 lakhs? Then 7.5% of salary you will calculate and you will write that here. Understanding? What if the city has a population of less than or equal to 15 lakhs? Then 5% of salary you calculate and you write that value here. And what if in any city the accommodation is given, but the accommodation was not owned by the employer, that was taken on rent by the employer? Then you will calculate 10% of your salary or actual rent of that accommodation paid by the employer, whichever is lower, that value you are going to write here. Yeah, difficult. Made easy. Say thank you. Okay, now see, now you learned that how to calculate the value. But to calculate this value, you'll have to calculate the salary also. 10% of what? Salary. 7.5%, 5% of what? So what will you take in this salary? Basic, DA in terms, turnover commission will not be taken. The salary for the purpose of valuation of this accommodation will include everything given by the employer except 5 things. Except, so during the year, how many employers you are having? Any number of employers. You can have 1 employer, you can have 2 employers. From all your employers during the previous year, whatever salary comes, that entire salary you are supposed to take to value this perquisite. But you will not take 5 things. Except 5 things, consider each and every salary. Getting my point? Number 1, DA not in terms. What all things you will not take? DA not in terms. Don't take DA not in terms. Meaning DA in terms you will have to take. Understanding? Second thing, employer's contribution to provident fund. Employer's contribution to, see, sometimes the employer's contribution to provident fund will also be taxable as your salary. So in your salary, if you have taken employer's contribution as provident fund, don't take that employer's contribution to provident fund as a part of this salary. Yes or no? Don't take DA not in terms as a part of this. DA not in terms shall not be taken. Number 2, employer's contribution to provident fund shall not be taken. Value of other perquisites. The employer will give you other perquisites also. The value of other perquisites will also be taxable. But those value of other perquisites will be taxable as salary. But don't take those values to calculate this salary for valuing this accommodation. So in this salary which you are going to take, this salary, you know, this. In this salary, what all things will come? Everything which the employer give you. So during the previous year, from all your employers, whatever salary will come, you are going to take it. But don't take 5 things. Number 1, DA not in terms, you will not take as a part of this salary. Number two, employer's contribution, you will not take as a part of this salary. Number three, value of other perquisites, you will not take as a part of this salary. Number four, exempt portion of allowances. What did I say? You will not take a part of this salary, meaning taxable portion of allowance you are supposed to take. Exempt portion of allowance you will not take. Yes or no? And fifth and last, all the lump sum retirement and superannuation benefits. All the lump sum retirement and superannuation benefits, that also you are not going to take. Apart from these five things, during the previous year, all salary given by all your employers will be taken, but that will be taken on due basis. What basis? Due for which period? No, due for the period in the previous year for which the accommodation was occupied by the employee. During the full year, the accommodation is given, and during the full year you have occupied. Then take the salary which becomes due for the full year, except those five things. Yes or no? But wait, if the accommodation was provided by the employer for full year, but you occupied only for 9 months, did you take the benefit for full year? You will take the benefit, you will get the benefit only for the period for which you will occupy the accommodation, no? The employer allotted the accommodation to you. Employer gave the accommodation, he has provided the accommodation, but you could occupy only for 9 months. So you will occupy, only then the benefit will happen, no? So you have occupied for 9 months. So whatever salary which will become due in those 9 months, the period during which the accommodation is occupied, except for those five things, yes or no, that salary you are going to take. Based on that salary, you are supposed to determine the value. But if you will take the value, if you will take the salary of those 3 months during which you have not occupied the accommodation, and you are taking 10%, 7.5% and 5% of that salary, meaning you are trying to charge that benefit also, which has never happened to you. Which benefit will happen? Benefit for which period will happen? For the period for which you have occupied the accommodation. Only during that period, whatever salary becomes due, except for those five things, from all your employers, you are supposed to take that. Understanding? Should I move ahead? Sure? Pakka no? Okay. Pay attention. Now, who is this? Who is this? Giving what? Can be. Rent free is also a perquisite as per clause 1. Concessional rent is also a perquisite as per clause 2. The value of this perquisite has to be done as per rule 3.1. And the value which you will determine as per rule 3.1 will be taxable under the head salary in the hands of employee. Okay. Now the value as per rule 3.1, how will you determine? You will determine the value of accommodation. You will add the value of furniture, and from that you will reduce the recovery of rent. Yes or no? Now first you will determine the value of color, blue color. Can you see? What are we determining? Value of accommodation. Can you see, no? Value of accommodation provided to. What will be the value? Did I tell you this? Hello? Value of accommodation provided to non-government employee. If the accommodation is owned by the employer in a place where the population as per 2011 census was more than 40 lakhs, then 10%. More than 15 lakhs but less than or equal to 40 lakhs, then 7.5%. Less than or equal to 15 lakhs, then 5 lakhs. 5%. 5% of salary. Then if the accommodation is taken on rent by the employer anywhere, now you don't see the population, how much maximum amount we could have charged? 10% of your salary. for any city? Yes or no? Or the actual rent which the employer is paying? Whichever is anywhere, whichever is lower is missing. So in your notes now which I have given, please do this updation. Okay, no? Whichever is lower, put this sign. Okay, now pay attention. This salary, color, pink color, salary. Can you see color, pink color? What will be taken as a part of this salary? This salary will include everything, but it does not include number one, DA not in terms. Number two, employer's contribution to provident fund. Number three, value of all other perquisites. Number four, exempt portion of allowance. Number five, lump sum retirement benefits. If you see any of these things, don't take them as a salary to calculate the value of your perquisite. So for perquisite valuation, you will take salary. Salary includes anything and everything other than these 5 items. But the salary will be taken on what basis? Due for the period for which the accommodation was provided by the employer. No. Accommodation was occupied by the employer. See, if in the question it is given that accommodation provided for 9 months and nothing is mentioned that for how many months you have occupied, then you have occupied for 9 months. So take the salary which becomes due in 9 months. But if question will be very specific, if the employer provided the accommodation for 12 months and the employee could occupy the accommodation only for 7 months, then whatever salary which will become due in those 7 months, salary actually becoming due in those 7 months from all the employers, yes or no, except these 5 items, you have to take that salary. Understanding? Here if you will do basic DA in terms, turnover commission gone. Okay, exemptions and everything we have already done, no? So there you see basic DA in terms and turnover commission. Here you are supposed to take the entire salary. Now see, this perquisite you will be able to value only after solving the entire question. So till the time you will not solve the entire question, you will not know what all things you are going to get from the ready. If you will have to take everything in this salary, so till the time you will not solve the entire question, you will not get everything. So whenever this perquisite is given in the question, after solving the entire question only, you will be able to determine the value of this perquisite, the end. So till the time you don't give effect to each and every item in the salary. Now, once the salary statement is ready, no? Now from that statement, I will have to identify which salary I will take and which salary I will not take. 5 things. The salary statement I will not take. Number 1, DA not in terms. Number 2, employer's contribution to provident fund. Number 3, value of all other perquisites. Number 4, exempt portion of allowances. Number 5, other than these items, everything given in the salary statement, take that. But wait. These items will be taken as your salary. But this should be taken on due basis. On only for the period for which the accommodation was occupied. So if in the statement full year salary is given and you are taking full year salary, except those 5 things. Okay, provided full year the accommodation should be. But what if the accommodation was occupied only for 8 months? Already from the statement you are taking the salary of 12 months. This will not do. If for 12 months this is due, then how much for 8 months? So you will have to convert this salary into 8 months. Why? Because the accommodation was occupied only for 8 months. Getting my point, everyone? Now see, this one, note number 1. Okay. But before this, value you know how to determine. Now pay attention. Now in this value of accommodation you are supposed to add value of furniture. Can the employer provide accommodation with furniture? The value of furniture will also be taxable, because see, what is the value of furniture? Meaning that if you are using the furniture provided by the employer, the benefit is happening to you. Benefit of using the furniture. So by using that furniture, how much benefit will happen? By using that furniture which is provided by the employer. Furniture means what? It can be sofa, it can be bed, cupboard, hello, fridge, washing machine, AC, everything is included in this furniture. Yes or no? So if these items are provided by the employer, these items are provided by the employer, so you are going to use these items. By using these items, the benefit will happen. The benefit of using the items, benefit of using these items. So how much will be the benefit of using these items? Depends that items were owned by the employer or taken on hire by the employer. Employer can give his own furniture to you. An employer can take the furniture on rent, and that furniture can also be given to you. If the owned furniture is given, if the owned furniture is given, 10% per annum. What did I say? Per annum of the, did I say WDV? Actual cost. You'll have to see that what was the actual cost of that furniture to the employer. And now take 10% of that actual cost. But that 10% is per annum benefit. So by using the employer's furniture, you will get this benefit. You'll get this benefit. 10% per annum of the actual cost of that furniture to the employer. So for example, 2 ACs are given. Each AC is costing 50,000. 5,000 for each AC. So 2 ACs are given. So 10,000. But 10,000 which you have calculated, that is 10%. That value is per annum value. If the AC is used full year, then you can charge 10,000. But if the ACs are used only for 9 months and you are charging this 10,000, your answer will be wrong. Why? Because 10,000 is the benefit per annum. If for the full year you are using the AC furniture, the benefit will be 10,000. But if you are not using it for full year, check the number of months, check the number of days for which it is used. Multiply those many days or months divided by 12 months or 365 as the case may be. For example, you are using only for 9 months. So this value is for 12 months, divide by 12, multiplied by 9. For example, the ACs are used for 182 days. ACs are used for, you calculated, the dates were given, the AC are given to employee on this date. So from that date, you will calculate the use. So 4986, that will be the taxable value. Understanding? How did you do it? 10,000 divided by 365 multiplied by 182. And if the ACs are given for 90 days, then 10,000 into 90 divided by 360. Understood, everyone? Hello? So furniture owned by the employer given to you, what will be the taxable value of that furniture for you? What will be the taxable value by using that furniture? 10% per annum of the actual cost of that furniture to the employer. But sometimes some furniture can be given which was hired by the employer, which was taken on hire, taken on rent by the employer. Employer took it on rent and gave it to you. Oh, you want to use the AC? I don't have AC. What I'll do, I'll take the ACs on rent and provide it to you. Possible, not possible? Per month rent I am giving 5,000. per month rent I am giving. So that rent which I will pay per month will be the benefit. But the benefit will be taken for those months for which you are actually using the AC. So if I am paying the rent for 12 months, 12 months rent will not be your benefit. Benefit will be for those months for which you will be using those ACs. You will be using those furniture. So per month is 5,000 and you are using only for 4 months. So how much will be the benefit? 20,000 is the rent paid by the employer for that period for which you are using. Yes or no? That should be your benefit. If you would have taken them on rent, you should have paid this much rent, which you are not paying, which you are saving, will be your benefit. Understanding? And if you would have taken, you would have bought the asset, the depreciation would have been at what rate? 10%. So that depreciation by using, you are charging on the asset of the employer. Getting my point? So, first of all, what is the value of accommodation? Come on, tell me. Licensing fees or 10% of salary or 7.5% of salary or 5% of salary or 10% of salary or actual rent of that accommodation paid by the employer, whichever is lower. This can be the value of accommodation. What can be the value of furniture? If the furniture was owned by the employer, then 10% per annum of the actual cost of that furniture. That value can come here. What if the furniture was taken on rent by the employer? Then actual rent, actual hire charges of the furniture paid by the employer. Sometimes owned furniture is also given and hired furniture is also given. So for owned furniture, you will calculate 10%. For hired furniture, you will calculate actual hire charges. Both taken together will be the value of furniture. Understanding? And whatever rent the employer recovers from you, that you reduce. Final amount will be the taxable value of perquisite. If only accommodation is given, then only this value. For that accommodation, if the rent is charged, then this value minus rent charged. Getting my point? Hello. But if accommodation is given with furniture only, then this value and this value. And for that accommodation is furnished accommodation. If the rent is also charged, then this value plus this value minus. Done, sir. Should I move ahead? This is the valuation of accommodation done. Okay. Now this way you have to value. In the question, they are going to give all the details. But which details are relevant? And by taking those details, how to determine this value? Very, very, very important. Because if you will see a salary question in the exam, majority of the time they will test you. They will test you for this accommodation facility. Because many students find it difficult to determine this value. And the institute knows this. But if we'll ask the salary question, and in that salary question, if we'll ask the valuation of accommodation perquisite, students will find it difficult and will put the adjustment in such a little bit tricky language. Then the students will get more confused. Majority of the students will commit the mistakes. So we'll be able to deduct the marks. Try to capitalize on this thing, no? If you know that this kind of thing can come in the exam, there are bright chances that if salary question is asked, this thing they will ask. So put more focus on these things. Yes or no? Try to solve as many questions as you can having this perquisite valuation in it. That way the more practice will happen, different cases you will come to know. In those all cases you will come to know that how to determine this value. First question you will get problem. Second question less problem. Third question, fourth question you will get fluency. There will be hardly any question in which accommodation will be there and you will commit mistake. But for that you will have to practice such type of questions, no? I will teach you here, but ultimately I will tell you how to calculate also once. But at the end of the day, to get that thing in your control, you should have to practice. I cannot practice on your behalf. If that is possible, that I practice and you know everything, I can do that also for you. But that is not going to happen, no? Want to see the heaven? You have to die. Understand, no? Okay. So, note number 1. Note number, where the accommodation is provided to the, is owned or taken on rent by the, and the same accommodation is continued to be provided to the employee for more than, see, this is very important because from 23-24 they have updated the valuation also. So now this thing came in 23-24. Bright chances that in the examination, whatever this note number 1 is very, very important. Very, very important. In this note, what they are saying, the discussion is only about this part. The discussion is only about this part. See, where the accommodation is provided to the employee is owned or taken on rent by the, meaning either the accommodation can be this one or the accommodation can be this one. So accommodation is owned by the employer or taken on rent by the employer. That can be done only in the case of non-government employees. So if the assessee is a non-government employee and the accommodation is owned by the employer or taken on rent by the employer, this accommodation is given to you. And this accommodation is given to you for more than one previous year. Possible or not? The same accommodation which I have given you for the first time in this year, can I continue to give that accommodation in the subsequent years also? In the subsequent years also, the value will be determined for the same accommodation. This year, accommodation will be determined. The value will be determined based on this year's salary. Next year, based on next year's salary. Next to next year, based on that year's salary. Every year, for the same accommodation, the value will be determined based on salary of each year. Now, don't you think the salary of each year will increase? Slowly and gradually, the value of this accommodation, value of this same accommodation will keep on increasing. Hello? So they have put a capping on this value. They have put the capping on this value. See, for the first time, this accommodation was provided to you in 23-24. Which year? This accommodation, which is either owned by employer or taken on rent by employer. For the first time, this accommodation was provided in 23-24. 23-24, this accommodation was given to you. In 24-25 also, this accommodation is given to you. And in the previous year, 25-26, in my previous year also, the same accommodation is there with you. So in my previous year, how will you calculate the value? For example, the accommodation was owned by the employer in a place where the population is more than 40 lakhs. So what will be the value in my previous year? 10% of salary. Salary for this year. Salary for this year. For example, this year the salary was 30 lakhs. This year the salary, except those 5 things, salary becoming due in this year, yes or no? Due in the period for which the accommodation is occupied. That salary was 30 lakhs. 10% of 30 lakhs will be 3 lakh will be the value of this perquisite, which will be taxable for this year. Hello? This year how much value? This year how much value? 3 lakhs. You know, last year the value was different. And in the first year also the value was different. Why? Same accommodation is given. Every year the value is different. This year the value is bloody 3 lakh rupees. How come? Because this year's salary is 30 lakhs. You know, when first time this accommodation was provided to you in 23-24. In 23, that year your salary was only 18 lakhs. In 23-24, your salary was only 18 lakhs. And 10% of this was, that year only 1,80,000 got taxed. And this year, for the same accommodation, see, within a very short span of time, if the salary increased drastically, the value of this accommodation got also increased drastically. But don't you think This valuation which you are doing right now is for that accommodation, same accommodation. And for that same accommodation, first year the rent could have been 1,80,000. Second year could have been a little bit more. Third year it can be little bit more. But it could not be 3 lakhs. It is calculated based on this year's salary. Understanding what I am trying to tell you? Because of inflation, every year the rent could have been a little higher. And this year's value which you are charging is higher than that rent also which you could have paid. Getting my point? So how much rent you could have paid in this year for the same accommodation? So for example, in the first year, if the value was 1,80,000, that year cost inflation was 348. What did I say? In the first year. In the first year, which was the first year? That year cost inflation was 348. This is a cost inflation index known as II, cost inflation index, with effect from 2001 to, for income tax purpose, the CIIs are notified starting from 2001 to. So 1-2 is taken as a base year. 1-2 is taken as a base year. So anything whose cost is 100 rupees in 1-2. So taking 1-2 as a base year, now we will see how much cost is increasing. Understanding? How much is the increase in the cost of any item because of inflation? But for that, we'll have to take 1 year as a base. So 2001-2 is kept as a base. So if some item was costing 100 rupees in 1-2, don't you think in the next year, because of inflation, the cost would have increased? And it became 105. It became, don't you think in the next year, the cost will increase a little bit? Hello? It became 109. In the next year, it became 113. Likewise, the cost started increasing. Wait, I will show you that table, huh? See. The cost inflation index. This is a CBDT, income tax website, huh, guys? From income tax website I am showing. Which is the year? 1-2. 1-2 is kept as a base year. 2-3, 105. 3-4, 113, 117, 122, 129, 137, 148, 1. Likewise, if you will come to our previous year, can you see it is 376? The item whose cost in 2001-2 was, or any service, was worth 100. Right now, if you take that, right now, if you buy that, its cost will be 376. Now tell me, when did you first took that accommodation from the employer? 2001-2 or in 23-24? So can you see 23-24 what was CII? 300 and, so at the time when you took it, at the time when you took that accommodation, the CII was 348. First time when that same accommodation was given, at that time 348 was the cost inflation index. And at that time 1,80,000 was charged as the value. Value of what? Perquisite. So in that year, the value of accommodation charged was how much? 1,80,000. And if that same accommodation would have been taken in the next year and in this year, if just imagine the rent was 348, so this year the rent should be how much? So when the cost inflation was 348, then this much was charged. Now the cost inflation is, so for that same accommodation, how much should be charged? Cross multiplication 1 lakh, 480, what you did, you took the value of that accommodation for the year in which it was first provided. So the accommodation which is provided in 25-26, you have to see that which was the year in which it was first provided. Understanding? Sir, if the accommodation was first provided to me in 2012-13, then you are not going to take 12-13, you are going to take 12-13 or 23-24, whichever is later, because the amendment has come from with effect from 23-24. So which is the first previous year in which the accommodation is given? Either that first previous year can be any previous year prior to 23-24. In that case, you are supposed to take the value of 23-24, not the value of that year. Yes or no? You are supposed to take 23-24 as the first year, and in that year, which value was taxed. Understanding? But what if 24-25 was the first year? So 23-24 or 24-25, whichever is later, 24-25 will be the first year. Yes or no? You are supposed to take the value of the first previous year in which this accommodation was provided. Pay attention. In my case, accommodation was provided in which year? 23-24. In that year, that was the first year. In that year, how much value was taxed? And if that same accommodation is continuously provided to you, and this year also that same accommodation is provided, so don't you think that for the same accommodation, this year the value should not be more than this much? And now this year you have determined the value 30 lakh into 10%, 3 lakhs. Unnecessarily a higher amount is charged, no? You have to restrict your taxable value to this value. This is known as inflation capping. Known as inflation capping. So in this year, your accommodation value will be calculated 10% of salary. But if that 10% of salary is more than inflation capped value, inflation capped, then will not charge the 3 lakhs, charge this much amount. Because charging 3 lakhs will be unnecessarily a higher amount. Getting my point? But what if this value would have been 4 lakhs? Example. This value would have been 4 lakhs. Then are we charging more than, are we charging this much amount? Or we are taking only 3 lakhs? In that case, 3 lakh will be taxable. Understanding? So now what are you supposed to do? See, in English, they have written something. Please read this. Very important now, very important. This can be asked in the exam. In your attempt, I'm expecting 99% chances that in your attempt, this concept will be tested in the exam. Don't tell me later on that, sir, you did not tell us that this was not important. This is important. Read. They're talking about government employee or non-government employee. So whatever we are studying right now is not applicable on licensing fees. So this year, whatever licensing fees is taxable, that is taxable. No need to do any changes like this in licensing fees. We are talking only about non-government employee. If non-government employee this year is getting any accommodation, so accommodation is provided to the employee, non-government employee, and that accommodation is owned or taken on rent by the, and the same accommodation they're talking about, same accommodation is continued to be provided to the employee for more than 23 also same, 24 also same, 25, 26 also same. Yes or no? The value of accommodation calculated for this year as above. How much we calculated for this year as above? We took 10% of this year's salary. Yes or no? Or we would have taken 7.5%, or we would have taken 5%, as the case may be. Or we would have taken 10% or actual rent paid by the employer, whichever is lower. Whatever value we are going to calculate for this year. So the value of that accommodation which is calculated for the current year as above, the value of accommodation calculated as above shall not exceed, the amount so calculated for the as multiplied by amount which is the ratio of CII for the previous year for which the value is calculated, and the CII for the previous year in which such accommodation was initially provided to the. In short, this is the formula written in theory. This is the formula. The calculation which you did is this only. Amount so calculated for the, now which is the first previous year. If that accommodation was given to you for the first time in 23-24, then 23-24 is the first previous. Go and check. If this perquisite is valued in this year, the value is 3 lakhs. The value is, salary for this year is 30 lakh. 10% of that, 3 lakhs. So this 3 lakh value is for this year. Now go and check when this accommodation was provided for the first time. Now accommodation in my case was provided for the first time in. Now for this same accommodation in that year also you have determined the value. Hello, how much you determined? 10% of that year's salary. 10% of, and that year the salary was 18 lakh. 10% of that we have already charged 1 lakh 18 that year. So the same accommodation's value in the first year, which was already taxed, yes or no, multiplied by CII of this year divided by CII of that year, yes or no, will get what? The maximum value of that accommodation which can be charged in this year. So if this year's value is more than the maximum value calculated, indexed capped value as per taxation capping, I told you, no. So there will be a cap on the taxable value in this year. So your taxable value in this year cannot be more than the indexed value. The taxable value in this year cannot be more than indexed value. So what will be the indexed value? Value of the first year multiplied by value of this year, CII of this year divided by CII of that year. Hello? 23-24, what was the CII? 348. What is the CII of this year? 376. So 1 lakh 80 was at the rate of 348. Same 180 at 376. How much should be the value? You got 1 lakh 94 something. Yes or no? Hello, sir. How much should be the maximum value? 1 lakh 94,000 something should be the maximum value of this perquisite in this year. How much you are getting? Your value cannot be more than 1 lakh 94 something. This year, under the head salary, 194 will be taxable and not. Understood? Easy, no? Very interesting also. Now tell me, this year, if the value calculated by you was 1 lakh 90,000, then 190 is lower than the indexed value, no? So the value which you have calculated will be taxable. Understood? Now one example which I have created. The same example but with different numbers. Which was the first previous year? Which is my previous year? Why I am taking 23-24 as the first previous year, you know? Assuming that the accommodation which is given right now was for the first time given to you in 23-24. We'll explore other cases also, don't worry. But right now I am assuming the accommodation I gave you for the first time in which year? Hello? 23-24. And this year, 25-26. Both the year CII will be given in the question. Don't worry. Don't have to remember this. Okay. Now tell me. Salary for that year was? Salary for this year is? Salary means this salary. This salary means this is the salary for calculation of perquisite. excluding 5 things, all other things, yes or no? So we'll exclude those 5 things, we'll take all other things on due basis. So that year's salary was 20, this year's salary is, and assuming that the accommodation was owned by the employer, and it was owned in a place where the population is more than 40 lakhs. So that year also 10% value was taxable, and this year also 10% should be taxable. 10% of the salary was 2 lakh, salary was 2 lakh 80. So that year how much was taxed? This year how much is getting charged? Yo, just last year I got the accommodation. Last year I got that accommodation, and in that year the value of the accommodation was only 2 lakh. In 2 years 80,000 extra for that same accommodation getting taxed in my hands. Why? Because this year my salary has increased. Because of the increase in the salary, the rent is not going to increase that much, no? Have some logic. If the same accommodation is given to me, for that same accommodation, the value cannot increase this much. 2 lakh 80. That 2 lakh 80 is because of increase in my salary. So in the proportion in which the salary has increased, in that same proportion, the rent has not increased. The rent will increase based on inflation. And the salary is increased because of promotion. So because of my promotion, my salary became 30. So that same jump you cannot give for rent, because rent will increase based on inflation. Have some sense. Don't do nonsense thing. If you'll charge 2 lakh 80 to me, what will happen? Unnecessarily a higher amount is considered as my perquisite. Bloody, the accommodation is same only, no? For that same accommodation, how can this much high value should be taxable? Just because my this year's salary was higher, this taxable value is also coming higher. But this is completely illogical. They said, okay, have some breath, don't be too much hyper, we are doing something. 23-24 amendment came. 23. So from 23-24 onwards, now what we will do? We will not allow your taxable value of perquisite to be more than indexed value. So we'll calculate the indexed value. How to calculate that indexed value? First year, the accommodation was given. That year, what was the taxable value? So 2 lakh was the taxable value for this accommodation in that year. So if we index that, if we put inflation in that, so this year rent should be 2,16,092. This year's taxable value should be 2,16,092. Getting my point? How much is this year's value? This value should not exceed this amount. How much should be taxable in this year? 2 lakh 80? No. 2,16,090. What it, sir? Sir, now what if the first year in which I gave you the accommodation was 2018-19? So for the purpose of this calculation, which year you will take? 18-19, whatever value was there, that value you will inflate. No. If the same accommodation is there with you from 18-19 onwards, we'll take the first year as 18-19 or 23-24, whichever is later. So which is later? So 23-24. 23-24. What was the value of this perquisite? What was the salary? What was the value of that perquisite? From 23-24 onwards, we are going to do this calculation. Understood, sir? Now wait. One small thing. If that accommodation is given to you for the first time in this year, so which is the first year? This year is the first year. This year is the whatever value you will calculate in this year will be taxable for this year. Understanding? Now the same accommodation is given to you next year also, next to next year also. Then in the subsequent year, which will be your first previous year? 25-26. Getting my point? If the accommodation is given prior to 23-24 for the first time, then the first previous year will be 23-24. Then the first previous year will be 23-24. But if the accommodation is given in 23-24 or later on, then 23-24 or any later year, whichever is later, that will be the first previous year. Understanding? The year in which the accommodation is actually given, that will be the first previous year. If the accommodation is given on or after 1st of April 2023, getting my point? Then the year in which it is actually given will be the first previous year. But if it was given prior to that, then prior year or 23-24, whichever is later, 23-24 will be taken as first year. Understood? Sure. See, first previous year means 23-24 or the previous year for which the accommodation was provided for the first time, whichever is later. Whichever is, if the accommodation was given in 24-25, then 23-24 or 24-25, whichever is 24-25 will be the first year. What was the value taxable in that year? Index that value. That index value or the value for this year, whichever is lower, that will be taxable in. Done? Sure. Now, can the accommodation be provided in hotel? Is it necessary that always the employer will give you house? Can give you accommodation in hotel also. Now, if the hotel accommodation is given, then the rule 3, sub-rule 1 says that hotel accommodation, if given at the time of transfer, if given at the time of the assessee from one city to another city. Possible, no? From Bangalore, you are getting a job in Mumbai. Or in the same company, you are getting a transfer from Bangalore to Mumbai. So now your city will change. Hello? If the city will change, definitely you will have to find out some rental accommodation over there, or the employer will give you own accommodation there immediately, or it will take some time. See, January month is ending. From February onwards, you are supposed to join in Mumbai. So immediately, you cannot go in Mumbai and buy a flat. And bloody, if you have money to buy the flat, why are you doing a job? No. There you will go, there you will take a flat on rent, or the accommodation might be given by the employer. So immediately on the 1st February, you will go and you will find out an accommodation on rent, or the employer can immediately give you. You have to join on 1st February. And if you will join there, where will you stay? Railway station? Bus stop? Where will you stay? Hotel only, no? So some hotel was booked by the employer. Employer said that, see, you join on 1st of February. Join on 1st of February. And by the time you don't get your house on rent, or the employer does not give you accommodation, by that time stay in the hotel, the employer will meet the cost of the hotel. Possible or not? First 15 days. First, whatever benefit will happen, fully exempt. If the hotel accommodation is provided for the first 15 days, the value of that accommodation will be fully exempt, will not be taxable, because it is provided on transfer. Because it is provided on transfer. But what if the hotel, because 15 days are enough. See, if you want to take your accommodation on rent, or if the employer wants to give any accommodation, he can give in 15 days, and you can also find out in 15 days. Yes or no? 2 weeks time is enough, no? So 2 weeks you stay, 15 days you stay in the hotel on transfer. Whatever cost etc. for that hotel will be met by the employer, will not be treated as your benefit, will be fully exempt. But what if more than 15 days hotel accommodation was given? Then for the first 15 days, the benefit is exempt. Excess period, the benefit will be taxable. Excess period, the benefit will be taxable. How much benefit will be taxable? For example, the employer has provided you hotel accommodation for 25 days. While you are on transfer, the hotel accommodation was provided for 25 days. First 15 days, fully exempt. Taxable value, nil. Taxable value, nil. Remaining period, excess 10 days. Whatever salary will become due in those excess 10 days, except 5 things. You remember 5 things? Except for those 5 things, whatever salary will become due in those 10 days, 24% of that salary. What did I say? 24% of that salary, or the actual amount spent by the employer for your hotel accommodation for those excess days, whichever is lower, will be taxable for you. And if the employer has done any recovery from you, that recovery also you reduce. Understanding? But that value will be taxable for excess days. What if you are on transfer from Bangalore to Chennai? Your employer is providing you hotel accommodation. Can he provide? Yes. Entire cost of hotel accommodation and everything is taking care of that. That hotel accommodation was provided for 14 days. How much value will be taxable? Nil. 15 days or less, the benefit is fully exempt. More than 15 days, taxable for excess days. For the first 15 days, the benefit is exempt. So excess days, taxable. For example, excess days, total 20 days. Total 20 days benefit is provided. Hotel accommodation is provided for 20 days. Come on. So first 15 days exempt. Excess, that 5 days salary. The salary which will become due in those 5 days, except 5 things. Yes or no? Take that salary. 24% of that salary. That will be the value. Or for those 5 days, amount actually spent by the employer for your hotel accommodation. For those extra 5 days. Yes or no? Whichever is lower. Whichever is, that value will be taxable. At any amount which is recovered by the employer from the employee for those excess days. The excess days, this much benefit will be taxable, but out of this benefit, some amount is recovered by the employer. No, so that will not be treated as your benefit. Reduce that amount. Understanding? Will you be able to charge like this? Hotel accommodation on transfer. Hotel accommodation on only then 15 days is exempt. But what if you are going on some official tour? Working in Bangalore, you are not shifting. The transfer is not happening. Now you are going for some company's work for 5 days, 10 days. The way in which I come here, see, I'm also coming to take the lectures, no? So what if some employee is going for official work? Mumbai, some work is there. We have to meet some clients. You have to do some business meetings. And then after finishing that work, you are supposed to come back only, no? Are you getting transferred? Or you are going for official work? But that official work can be of 2 days, it can be of 10 days, it can be a week, sometimes a month also. Yes or no? So where you will stay there? Hotel. And who is meeting that cost? Employer. Is it a personal benefit? No. Because the visit was not a personal visit. Visit was a on your official visit, on your official tour, if the hotel accommodation is provided, then that is not your personal benefit. That is a benefit happening in the course of your employment. The value of the benefit will be fully exempt because the visit was official. Will you remember? So if accommodation is provided in hotel while the employee is on official tour, then on that hotel accommodation, whatever amount will be spent by the employer will not be treated as your personal benefit, will not be taxable for you. Fully exempt. Taxable value of perquisite will be nil. Understanding? But what if you and your family members are going for a vacation, personal tour? Possible or not? Can you go on a vacation? Kullu Manali. Where will you stay? Kullu. Where will you stay? Some hotel only, no? So you and your family, you are going for a personal tour, you are going for a vacation, and while you are on vacation, you stay in some hotel. And that time, hotel accommodation, whatever expenses are there, employer is meeting those expenses. Isn't it a personal benefit for you? Fully personal benefit. Because the tour was not an official tour. It was a personal tour. It was a vacation. And on your vacation, if the hotel accommodation is provided by the employer, then the benefit value is fully taxable. How much value will be taxable? The amount actually spent by the employer on your hotel accommodation will be your benefit, will be fully taxable. And if any amount he is recovering out of that benefit, reduce that amount. Understood or not? If accommodation in hotel is there, then this will be the tax treatment which you are supposed to do. Now, can your employer give you double accommodation? Single accommodation, understood. Can he give you two accommodation? Yes, can give. Why not? There is a factory in Bangalore. I'm taking care of that factory also. And there is a factory in Coimbatore. I'm taking care of that factory also. Factory head. When I'll be in Coimbatore, I will stay in Coimbatore house. When I'll be in Bangalore, I'll be staying in Bangalore house. Who to accommodate? Big employee, reputed employee, more benefits. I will not go there and stay in hotel. I want accommodation. Bungalow is given with servants and all. There also, here also. One accommodation provided, two accommodation. Can it be provided? So what will happen? Accommodation, which accommodation value will be taxable? Both. Bloody, we don't leave the value for first accommodation. Will we leave the value for second accommodation? No, we'll charge the value of both the accommodation. But wait, sometimes double accommodation can come to you because of your transfer also from one city to another. In my example which I gave, there was not a transfer. That was my usual work. Sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes there. Getting my point? Transfer is not happening. Now I am talking about transfer. You're leaving the city itself, leaving the town itself. Earlier you were staying in, example, earlier you were staying in Jaipur. Jaipur you know na? Huh? Jaipur. You and your family, you are staying in Jaipur. You are my employee. Hello employee. How are you? How is the day going on? Employee, I'm very happy with your work. I'm in Jaipur. You are also in Jaipur. This entire discussion which is happening in Jaipur. Where are you? Jaipur. Where is your family? I have given you accommodation in. I have given you RFU in Jaipur. Okay, no? Now, employee, the company is very happy from your work, you know. So we want to give you a promotion. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Accommodation. Wait. I'm not giving you accommodation right now. I'm just giving you a promotion. You said, thank you, sir. See, a hard-working, talented employee like you should not be working in branch office in Jaipur. You should be working in office, Delhi. So the company is giving you promotion, good hike in your salary, many benefits also. But for that, you'll have to transfer to head office. That is in Delhi. So please pack your bags Let's go to Delhi. Okay. See, if it is about you only, you are not having any family, you don't have any setup in Jaipur, then okay, you'll pack your bags and you'll come. Yes or no? Hello. Now, see what I'm trying to tell you here. If you have your entire family staying in Jaipur with you, your kids are there, your wife is there, your parents are there, okay, they are staying with you in Jaipur. They cannot immediately come with you, no? You are shifting. See, you have accepted my offer, okay, and I have told you that the moment you will shift to Delhi, no, in Delhi also the company will provide you accommodation. But you are supposed to shift from 1st July. 1st July is the joining. So the moment you will join there, the company will provide RF furnished accommodation at concessional rent in Delhi. Getting my point? What are you going to get there? Furnished accommodation in Delhi. Take your family there and start staying there. Children education will also be good. Metro city is there. You will also enjoy. And the company will get a good employee in the head office. Yes or no? You requested me, sir, I can go from 1st July, but I cannot immediately ask my entire family to go because see, it is about packing the entire stuff. Winding up everything from here and shifting to Delhi is not a small task, it is a big task because I'll have to shift my entire family. Sir, my parents are undergoing some treatment. Let that treatment get over. Okay. My children are having their end term exam. Yes or no? So let their exams get over. So till that time, don't take back that Jaipur accommodation from me. Let my family stay in the Jaipur accommodation. I will shift to Delhi. You give me an accommodation in Delhi, and till the time I don't call them to Delhi, let that Jaipur accommodation also be with me. Can you request that? Can I accept that request? I accept. Now see, from 1st July you are in, and in Delhi you are staying in my accommodation. Furnished accommodation at Delhi. Concessional rent. Yes or no? And in 1st July, on 1st July, the moment you shifted, did you vacate the Jaipur accommodation or it is still there with you? But your family is staying there. Okay. So now from 1st July, you have two accommodations. One in Jaipur, another in, and everything winding up, this, that, parents, treatment, children's, what do you say, exam, everything got over and you called your family to Delhi and 30th November, you vacated Jaipur accommodation. You gave the keys back to me. And now your entire family has shifted with you in Delhi. Can I say after 30th November, you are not having Jaipur accommodation, you are having only Delhi accommodation. Yes or no? So tell me, for the first 3 months, no, you are having only Jaipur accommodation. For the last 4 months, you are having only Delhi accommodation. But the period in between, can I say July to November, you are having two accommodation of the employer. And this is happening because of your transfer. Because of your transfer. So now, on transfer, you are having double accommodation. So what you will do, for the first 3 months, for the whatever salary will become due in these 3 months, except those five things. Based on that salary, you will determine the value of Jaipur accommodation. That will be taxable for first 3 months. Yes or no? Last 4 months, only Delhi accommodation is there, no? So last 4 months, whatever salary will become due, except those five things. Based on that salary, you will determine the value of Delhi accommodation. Yes or no? And that value will be taxable. So this period is sorted because here there is only one accommodation. Now the problem is about this intervening period, July to November. Do you have two accommodations? First 90 days. What did I say? the value of both accommodations will not be taxable. Value of any one accommodation which is more beneficial to you will be taxable. So which will be more beneficial? Showing a higher value taxable or lower value taxable? So value of Jaipur accommodation will be calculated for the first 90 days. And value of Delhi will also be calculated. Jaipur or Delhi, whichever is lower, will be taxable for the first. Meaning for the first 90 days, when you are having double accommodation, whatever salary becomes due for these 90 days. Based on that salary, calculate Jaipur value. Based on that same salary, calculate Delhi value. Whatever value you have calculated for both the accommodations, lower of them will be taxable. This will happen for the first 90 days. How many days you are having double accommodation? How come 153? July 31, August 31, September 30, October 31 and November 30. So for this period you are having two accommodation, July to November, 153 days you are having double accommodation. So out of 153 days, for the first 90 days, whatever salary becomes due in the first 90 days, except those 5 things, yes or no? Based on that 90 days salary, Jaipur value will be calculated and Delhi value will be calculated. Whichever is lower, that value will be taxable. How many days are extra over and above 90 days? 153 minus 90 will be 63 days. Can I say that the double accommodation is provided in excess of 90 days? Double accommodation on transfer is provided in excess of. So if it is provided for 90 days or less, 90 days or less, any one value we will charge. But if it is provided for more than 90 days, for the first 90 days, any one value which is lower we will charge. But for the excess number of days, we will charge the value of both the accommodation. So how many excess days? 63 days. Now based on the salary which becomes due in 63 days, Jaipur value based on this salary will be calculated, Delhi value based on this salary will be calculated, and both the values will now be taxable. You remember, for excess number of days. So for 3 months this value will be taxable, 4 months this value will be taxable, 90 days whichever is lower will be taxable, and the 63 days both the values will be taxable. Taxable values will be total and you will get the total taxable value for the full year. Understanding? Hello? I move? Next one. Note number 4. Last note. The perquisite will be: can your employer provide you accommodation at remote areas? When you go to work, remote areas for me. Some project site is there. Some construction site is there. Road construction happening. Some project is going on. Dams are constructed. Bridges are constructed. Yes or no? Highways are constructed. Onshore or offshore oil exploration sites are there. So you are my employee. You are supposed to work on these sites. Okay. I'm not shifting you permanently to that place. But whenever there will be a requirement, you will have to go to those sites and you will have to see the work progress and all. No, you will have to be involved in the work over there. You are a site engineer, you are a project engineer. Where you are supposed to be? At home, in office, or at project? Project. Project is bloody going on 200 kilometers away from here. Some remote area. Can I expect you to travel 200 kilometers every day? No. I will tell you, till the time the project is going on, you are supposed to be on the project. The project can go on for a month, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. The project duration can be any duration. Now, till the time you will be working on that project, where will you stay? Under the bridge. Where will you stay? There has to be some accommodation which I will have to provide, no? Hello? So can I provide some hotel accommodation there? Yes. Can I provide another house or bungalow accommodation, etc. over there? Yes or no? Any house is provided, any hotel is provided, so that you can stay in that accommodation over there, which is nearby to your project site, and from that accommodation you can reach the project site easily. Hello? Am I providing you accommodation at remote area? That accommodation can be a normal accommodation, it can be hotel also. Any valuation rule which you have studied so far for hotel, for accommodations, no valuation rule will be applicable on this accommodation. Value of this accommodation need not be calculated, need not be taxable in the hands of employee, because it's not a personal benefit given by the employer. Then what is this? This is the responsibility of the employer to provide accommodation there if he is sending you to work in such areas. If I am sending you to work in remote areas, far away areas, on these project sites, etc., so it is my responsibility to provide you accommodation over there. And if I am fulfilling my responsibility by giving you an accommodation there, bloody, how can that be treated as a personal benefit for you? Is it a personal benefit? No. So should the value of this accommodation be taxable for you? No. And if the value of this accommodation is not taxable for you, will you apply the valuation rules and determine the value of this accommodation? No. Because the accommodation is provided in remote area. First thing. Accommodation is provided on a temporary basis. Second thing. And the total area of that accommodation is 800 square feet or less. Understanding? Then I am not providing any personal benefit to you. The value of that accommodation will be fully exempt. No need to do the valuation. Taxable value will be nil. Will you remember this? Sure. So, accommodation provided by the employer in remote area to the employee while he is deputed on a project site, mining site, dam site, onshore or offshore oil exploration sites, etc. Then the accommodations provided there will not be treated as personal benefit. Valuation rule not to be applied on such accommodation since its value is fully exempt. Taxable value you are supposed to take at nil, provided the accommodation is temporary in nature and the area is less than or equal to 800 square feet. Then on this accommodation, no valuation rule will be applicable. Value will be fully exempt. Done, sir? With this, one perquisite we have completed out of 22. Accommodation. Let's start with the questions. And within 15 minutes, I'll give a break. Huh? Don't worry. We'll have to do the questions also, no? I know you are hungry. I can see your faces. You want a break just now, right now? Then these questions are deemed to be done. The questions which I'm supposed to solve with you, deemed to be done. You take the break. No. You take the break, no? You'll know how to calculate the accommodation value. 15 minutes give me, 15 to 20 minutes maximum. We'll solve the question and then go for a break, no? Okay. Come to question number 14. Question number 14. Are you ready? Are you ready? Start. Start this question. Come on. See, I will read the question. Mr. C is a finance manager in ABC Limited, meaning he's a government employee or a non-government employee. The company has provided him with rent-free, unfurnished accommodation. Rent-free, unfurnished. Meaning. Will you determine the value of furniture? Is it any rent recovery? Only determine the value of accommodation. Now, accommodation is provided in. He gives you the following particulars: basic salary, dearness allowance, bonus. Even though the company allotted the house to him on 1st April 25, he occupied the same only from. So the benefit is happening for the full year, no? Or only from November to March? 5 months benefit. So to calculate the value of 5 months benefit, you will take full year salary or 5 months salary. So whatever salary which becomes due from November to March, except those 5 things, So 5 things are not to be taken as a salary, they are not in terms. Employer's contribution to provident fund, value of all other benefits, hello, exempt portion of allowances and lump sum retirement or superannuation benefits, yes or no? Except for these 5 things, everything else you are going to take. So will you take basic for how many months? Into 5, how much? 42. Wait. Don't be in a hurry. Will you take dearness allowance? Sure. Not in terms you will not take, in terms you will take. So total DA is 2000, 30% is for retirement benefits. The DA which is for retirement benefits is DA in terms. Hello? So 2000 into 30% into 5 months. 3000. Excellent. Now will you take bonus? Nowhere it is written that you are not supposed to take bonus. So you will take the bonus also. Bonus for how many months? So it will be 7500. So tell me, 42,500 plus 3,000 will be 45,500 plus 7,500 is going to give you 50. Now first of all, you have calculated salary. Based on this salary, the perquisite will be valued. Now you are supposed to take 10, 7.5% or 5%. Why will you take 10%? Accommodation is not taken by employer on rent. If that was the case, they would have 100% given in the question that employer is paying this much rent for the accommodation. Are they saying that? No. Meaning the accommodation is owned by the employer. Now, it is owned by the employer in Mumbai. And Mumbai population is not given. Mumbai is a metro city, bloody. And metro city population will be more than 40 lakhs only, no? The population is more than. And in that city, this accommodation was given. So how much rent you are going to save? 10% of your salary. So salary you have calculated, you are supposed to calculate 10%. How much of that? How much value? 5,000. 5,000 will be the taxable value. Easy or difficult? This thing will be a small adjustment in your question. Okay, RFU adjustment. You'll have to determine the value like this. Now, using the data given in the previous illustration, compute the value of perquisite if Mr. C is required to pay a rent of 1,000 per month to the company for the use of this accommodation. Wait. Accommodation is unfurnished only. But for that accommodation, now the employer will charge 1,000 rupees per month rent also. So what was the value if the rent was not charged? 5,300. Out of that, some amount is recovered in the form of rent. No. So that should be charged or should not be charged? Should not be charged. So reduce that amount. Out of 5,300, you will reduce 1,000 rupees, no? Or 1,000 for 5 months. That will be 5,000. Balance will be That will be the taxable value of perquisite. Hello, sir. Can you see 300? Yes or no? Now, question number 16. Question number 16. Pay attention. Huh? Using the data given in illustration number 14, compute the value of perquisite if ABC Limited has taken this accommodation on a lease rent of 1025 per month and Mr. C is required to pay a rent of 1000 per month. Now see, wait. The accommodation provided in Mumbai is not owned by the employer, taken on rent by the employer. So what should be the taxable value? 10% of salary, which you have already calculated. How much? 5,300. This is 10% of salary or the actual rent paid by the employer. Actual rent is 1025. And for how many months? For the months for which you have occupied the accommodation. That is for 5 months. That will be how much? 5,100 and so either 5,300 or 5,125, whichever is lower. So can I say 5,125 will be taxable? And for this accommodation, if 1,000 rupees rent is recovered from you, so will the entire 5,125 be taxable? Or 5,125 minus 5,000? So minus 5,000 will be how much? Will be 125. This will be the taxable value. Can you see this? Hello? Easy or difficult? Now see, using the data given in illustration number 14, compute the value of perquisite if ABC Limited has provided a television, WDV 10,000, cost 25,000 and 2 air conditioners. The rent paid by the company for the air conditioner is 400 per month each. The television was provided on 1st of January 26. However, C is required to pay a rent of 1,000 per month to the company for the use of this furnished accommodation. What is happening here? Now, accommodation is also given, furniture is also given, and the rent is also recovered. So first, will you determine the value of accommodation? Yes. Accommodation was owned by the employer. So 10% value of the accommodation you have already calculated. So what will the value of accommodation? Now in this, will you add the value of furniture? See, some furniture is owned by the employer and some furniture is taken on rent by the employer. So television is taken on rent or it was owned. Why? Because for television they have given WDV also and actual cost also, meaning that the television was owned by the employer and that television is given. So first of all tell me, television, will you take WDV or you will take actual cost? So you will take actual cost. Take actual cost. 10% of that 2,000 and that will be the per annum value. If you watch the television full year, how much will you watch? 5 months, because you have occupied the accommodation for 5 months. So television value should be taxable for 5 months. 2,500 into 5 divided by 12 will be how much? How much? 1042 for television. Yes or no? Now tell me, air conditioners given for how many months? No. Hey, just a moment. Huh? See, here they are saying television was provided on 1st of January. No, guys. So you are going to watch television for 5 months or only for 3 months? Then why are you calculating for 5 months? Accommodation is occupied for 5 months, but in that accommodation, television was given only for 3 months, starting from January. So that 2,500 which you have calculated, how you have calculated? 25,000 into 10%. This is the value for full year. Now, if the television was provided for 3 months, so this will be 3 divided by 12. How much? This will be 625, guys, not 1042. Yes or no? And see, if nothing is mentioned about the air conditioners, then air conditioners are definitely provided for 5 months along with the accommodation. Yes or no? So air conditioner, one air conditioner 400, 2 air conditioner 800, provided for 5 months. Total will be 4,000. Can I say 625 plus 5300 plus 4000. Total will be 9925. And for this accommodation, the employer is recovering 1000 rupees of rent minus 5000. 49. 49. 4925 is the taxable value. Everyone understood? Now, last one. Using the data given in illustration number 14, no, 17, just above the data which is given here. You are supposed to use this data. Huh? Compute the value of perquisite. I will kick you out of the class now. Kiran, you also. I will see you talking for a single time now, no? I'll kick you out. Compute the value of perquisite. If Mr. C is a... Wait. Government employee, no? The value of furniture will not change. 625 plus 4000. That is not change. That is not going to change. But can I say the value of accommodation will change? Now, instead of 10% of salary, we'll charge the licensing fees. So what was the licensing fees? 700. 700 into 5. Only for 5 months the accommodation is occupied. Yes or no? It will be 3000 and 3500 plus 625 plus 4000. 8000 minus the rent recovered. 5000. 3125 should be the taxable value. See how easy the perquisite becomes to understand. Okay. Now these things will be given in the question. Any of these illustration you have done, no? Any one part will be there in the question. They have tried, they have discussed all the possibilities. Yes or no? So now take a small break, 45 minutes. After that, we'll meet and we'll start from the balance part. Okay.